This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Then he goes free. He goes to get wide. Edge of the box. Volley. Yes! Great goal! What a hit from Murillo! They've only got to do it again. Forest back in the lead. Rewarded James White. Oh, what he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic. Forest are in the Premier League.
I didn't realise that that ending is so long, by the way, guys. Hello and welcome to this edition of Red Side of the Trent. Here to look at this weekend's game when Forest welcome bottom of the league Southampton. Joining me is Lee Clark, who has been on a hiatus with work and other things. How are you, Lee?
Yeah, busy. January is a busy old time for me, as it is for anyone who kind of works doing anything associated with football. So, yeah, pleased to get involved. Pleased to be back. Nice to be involved.
Yeah, we're going to recap Liverpool because me and you missed out, unfortunately, on talking about everything that went on. I think you forget days. You know, like because we're playing so many games here and there, you're forgetting what days we're playing. Tuesday night we played, obviously, a 1-1 game against top of the league Liverpool. I've had a time to kind of take in what people have said online and people have said in the media. I mean, but what did you make of that game to start with, anyway?
Yeah, the reason you're forgetting is we're not used to playing Tuesdays in the Prem, are we? So that's probably why. It was everything I hoped it would be. I said on Twitter after the game that it was a bit disappointed we didn't get the win, but just being disappointed that we didn't get a win against a team like that is probably indicative of how far we've come as a club this season. I'm pleased it was on a Tuesday night because I worried if that would... When the fixtures came out, I was a little bit underwhelmed that we played such a big fixture on a midweek. I just thought the atmosphere when we first played them on that Saturday lunchtime was brilliant. Clearly, that was because it was the first season back and it was so long since we played Liverpool in a league game. So I actually think it worked in our favour a little bit with the atmosphere that it was on a Tuesday night because, as we know, there's no better City ground fixture to go to than one that's under the floodlights. That's my opinion anyway. So yeah, the atmosphere was everything I thought it would be. I thought the one thing that did impress me is even when Liverpool scored, the atmosphere didn't go flat. I actually thought Liverpool would win when they scored with 25 minutes still to go. Not because of the pattern of the game so far. I actually was quite comfortable that they wouldn't score in open play, but I thought once they got that equaliser, I just sensed that they might kick on a little bit, and as it panned out, they did. But they just came up against an immovable object in Matt Sells in goal, didn't they? And Murillo with his clearances, I suppose. So, yeah, it was a great night, and yeah, it was just. I thought a draw was a fair result on reflection, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the basis, if you look at like statistics and all that, like shots on goal and how many saves Sells made, I generally think like we reduced Liverpool a lot to pop shots from the edge of the box and whatnot. I know he made two unbelievable saves where he's closed down Diego Jota, I think it is. I think it's on more than one occasion. I don't know if it was Salah on the other one. I can't remember now, but when you look at it like that, you go, "Oh well, Liverpool battered Forest," and they did to an extent, but also Forest want that. We want that to happen because we want you to be open. But I thought we just lacked a little bit of composure at key parts where we could have got the ball down and actually started an attack ourselves, and instead we just kept giving the ball back to Liverpool. But I think that will come as we get more and more used to playing in these bigger fixtures, and maybe we get some better players going forward. Oh dear.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I was a bit disappointed we didn't do more in possession of the ball going forward when they had Robertson on the pitch, because I think there was one situation in the first half where it went over to him and it looked like Robertson was just going to cut it out and he slipped over. And I thought that was the moment when the realisation should have set in that, right, he's if they've got a slight weak link in this team, that's it. But we just never seemed to get at him again. And even when he was still on in the second half, I think he stayed on just before the goal, didn't he? He went off. So I think even in the second half, like you say, it wasn't like when we kind of got it, it was kind of like just get the ball out and hope that something sticks up there. Whereas I think there should have maybe been a bit more of a meticulous approach to where we were actually clearing it and trying to get the right players on in the right areas, sort of thing. But that's being overly picky. I thought they were a good side, aren't they? I mean, as much as it pains me to say it, they are a good side. They're top on merit, much like where we are on merit. So yeah, I had taken a point at the start, I've got to be honest. So yeah, relatively pleased.
I thought that about Trent as well. Like Callum Hudson-Odoi beat him quite early on first half, didn't he? Made him fall over, and I was like, right, well, there is your like knowing of that you can beat the fullback. Now go and do it, because like Alanga did it in the second half, I think, when Callum went off, and I just thought, well, let's get at both of them. I thought they were both poor, to be honest. Then Chimicast actually come on, put in a really good delivery. I was a bit disappointed with the goal, but there's no point going on about it because Sells gained us a point in the end with some terrific saves. But yeah, let's move on anyway from that. I just wanted to mention, actually, Murillo said in an interview, it was in Portuguese, so I don't know how good the translation is. Forest Film Room put this out on Twitter, actually. He said it'd be an honour to play for Forest in the Champions League if we got there. So for me, that kind of says that he's quite happy to stick around for a little bit longer, which is very good news for us if that comes in the summer, where we might have quite a lot of bids coming, because he's just going strength to strength every time I watch him play.
Yeah, I think he's the one player that we probably do need a top four. Well, I suppose top five can get you into the Champions League this year, can't it? So we need to finish in the Champions League, I think, to keep Murillo, to stand any chance of keeping him, should I say. I don't think the Europa League or the Conference League would be enough to persuade him to stay. And I don't think it'd give us enough clout with the negotiations of keeping him if we were only in those competitions as well. So he's the one. I think the others would kind of be quite like to Gibbs White. I think as much as he's going to have Champions League clubs looking at him, I just question at this stage in Gibbs White's career whether he'd play week in, week out for someone who's in the Champions League regularly. Obviously, if he gets there with us, he's going to play in it. But I think if we were in the Europa League or the Conference League, someone like Gibbs White would be more than content to spend at least another year with us, I think, and play in one of those competitions. But yeah, it was quite a good interview, actually. I mean, like, you've seen the same one as me, so obviously you're going on the subtitles across the bottom. But yeah, he seemed quite relaxed. For a young lad, he seemed quite composed in that interview. So whether it's because it was in Portuguese and he's in his comfort zone a little bit, I don't know. But it was just quite nice to see. It probably epitomises that the club are trying to look for good characters rather than just good footballers, I suppose, at the moment. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we'll keep banging on the drum about our good recruitment rather than the bad recruitment, I guess. Southampton come anyway this weekend, Lee, on Sunday, and you heard me actually thinking out loud how bad the fixtures have come for Southampton, with at least a 20-hour round trip between two games when they play Man United tonight as we record this, and then us on Sunday. That is balmy for what, in one sense, but brilliant for us because a lot of travelling, and we've had like 2 extra days rest. I mean, kind of all the stars are aligning, I guess, for this game coming ahead.
I mean, it's even worse for their fans when they've got 1 win all season, 6 points, and they've got those 2 journeys. And you know what? Knowing Southampton as a club, they'll sell all the tickets for both, won't they? They're usually backed pretty well. I think they're one of the better supported clubs down that part of the country. So, yeah, I mean, the stars aligned stuff, it does seem favourable, but I suppose Leicester would have seen it as favourable when we had to play Palace on the Monday, then Leicester on the Friday. Obviously, we know what happened there. So I think there's still got to be... it does seem... I mean, I know they're playing Man United, but I just question whether a team like Liverpool that's going for the title would have to play... I know that Klopp was always big on the Saturday half-12 slot after a Champions League game on Wednesday, wasn't he? But I just question whether they'd be made to play Thursday and then straight again on the Sunday at lunchtime. I think Southampton's been done a little bit dirty there by the league, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this starts off, funny enough, a 4-game run where we play all sides from the South Coast, in a sense. I don't know if you count Exeter. So we've got Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton, and then Exeter in the FA Cup, which is quite ironic. And then the 4 following games of that, which I'm sure we'll talk about on the pod at some point anyway, are all the 4 teams that have beaten this season in Fulham, Arsenal, Man City, and Newcastle. So, swings and roundabouts. It's funny how the fixtures fall. But like I said, Southampton, bottom of the league, 2 points in their last 10 games. They've got a new manager in Ivan Juric, who's lost all 3 of his first league games. Won in the FA Cup against Swansea 3-0 quite comfortably. How do you see this game going, Lee, first of all?
Well, I mean, it's probably the most. I mean, you don't want to say things that are going to come back to bite you, do you? But I think with how our season's going and the team we've got now, I do fancy it being a pretty comfortable win. The caution I have with that is I think it's going to be a completely different situation for us because I think Southampton. I watched Southampton against Fulham, and I think they drew that game. I think it was 0-0. First game after Martin had been sacked, so caretaker manager, that sort of stuff. It was Simon Russ, coincidentally, the infamous set-piece coach that Steve Cooper employed. And they actually kind of said to Fulham, you have the ball and try and score against us. Well, they didn't. So it doesn't worry me. That's not the word, but obviously it's going to be a different sort of game plan for Nuno because we're probably going to, be forced to have a little bit more of the ball than usual. But yeah, I am pretty confident. I think since we got promoted, I'd say this is probably the most confident I've been going into a game that we're going to win. But yeah, I think I don't think there's too many Forest fans who'd have I don't want that to come across on a Southampton forum as being really big-headed. I just look at the table, I look at what they're trying to do. They're trying to play this tippy-tappy football out from the back with players who can't do it. And I think we've got players who can hurt them if they do that. So yeah, I just think it's a game that's set up for a home win.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 games they've had under Juric in the league, they've not dipped below 50% possession still. So that tells me they're still wanting to keep the ball and still try and do things. And I mean, it was evident against Brentford when they lost 5-0 at home, where I don't know what they were trying half the time, but they just got punished completely by one of the worst away sides in the league. So coming to us, I thought when we went Southampton earlier in the season, I thought we were excellent. I think we averaged a shot every 15 touches or something ridiculous, or passes. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was something stupid. And I thought we were really good value for the win that day and probably should have won by more. So this is a game where I look at I don't want to go in too overconfident because every game in the league is really difficult. But it's a game where I go, this is a chance to get our goal difference up a little bit and get some players on the goal scoring sheet and keep that kind of confidence going. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think, I've seen some stuff, and like you say, it is a game where you can look at your goal difference and think, we could get it up. The key to that is what happens in the game, because I think, like I said about the Fulham game, the longer that Southampton stay in it, the more they'll believe they can get something. I think the key is you've got to score early. If you can score early, with the week they're going to have as well, going to Manchester, getting back, they're probably not going to do much training tomorrow, are they? Let's face it. And then they've got Saturday. They'll probably travel up to Forest on Saturday, so they're not going to do that much training on Saturday either. There's not going to be anything more tiring for Southampton than if we score in that first 10 minutes. They're all going to, I don't want to say throw the towel in, but that's what it's going to feel like. They're going to be absolutely spent. Whereas if they go there with this sort of siege mentality of let's just give it a go, no one's expecting anything, and dig in for half an hour, all of a sudden we become a bit restless because we're not beating a team with 6 points, provided they don't get any more at Man United tonight, of course. And then there's varying factors that can come into play. So, yeah, I think scoring first is key for us. And like you just said, I think if we do get an early goal, I do envisage a situation where we might get a few, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm hoping the atmosphere doesn't flatten because of the opposition either. I thought Tuesday night was possibly one of the best atmospheres I've been in the ground for a long, long time. It just gave me the Man City at home. I mean, I wasn't there, unfortunately, for when we beat Arsenal and stayed up. But like Man City at home, Sheffield United in the playoff, I just thought it was so good. I think we kind of gave Nuno one that he deserves in terms of a support, in terms of let's show him what the atmosphere can be like here. But also, I think the team just deserved it on how they've been this season. And we saw how much they were struggling that last 15 minutes. And I think the crowd I think as a crowd, we seem to kind of pick up on that energy and that vibe and body language. And like, they really need us. And this is a game where I don't think we can just, I don't know, sit on our hands almost, but just because it's Southampton. Do you not understand what I'm on about?
Yeah, I do get you. I think it's an interesting point. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think it's very similar to when, like, do you know when that first year we were in the Prem, I think I went to 10 away games that season, and I'll be honest, I didn't go to one ground and thought, wow, their home fans are really good. And I'll tell you exactly why it is, because they play the newly promoted side at home, whereas we're in the same situation now. So it's the nature of the beast. The atmosphere, if we score early, for example, the atmosphere is going to be brilliant for probably the next 15, 20 minutes. But then as the game dwindles on and we're winning, we might win him 2-3-0, the atmosphere is going to decrease. But I agree with you. I think what would be really good, and people outsiders all the time talk about how, atmospheric the City ground is and this, that and the other. People talk about that, but it does feel that it's on the big nights, which doesn't make us unusual to most other clubs. But it would be nice to think that we could have a similar atmosphere for a game against Southampton on a Sunday afternoon as we did against Liverpool in midweek under the lights. So I kind of agree with you, but I'm almost anticipating that the atmosphere it'll naturally be flatter just because of the opposition and the time of day we're going to play.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is why you say about an early goal or something to get the crowd going early doors, like a tackle or win a corner early on. Something that kind of goes over right. We're up for it, and like get us off our seats and get behind the team. And I think that's pivotal, because I think, like you say, the longer the game goes, and if Southampton is still in it, the crowd kind of get a bit restless and everything else. And now we've got our big six boots on. We're we just dismiss every team in the league now.
I think, do you know another thing that I think the atmosphere was so good on Tuesday? I was looking on social media and stuff, and I was talking to people and texting people throughout the day and speaking to people on emails at work, and everyone was buzzing for the game. So when they got to the ground and got in the pubs and that, everyone was like a coiled spring just waiting to explode. Whereas it's a Sunday afternoon game, you can have people that's been on the lash on the Saturday night, aren't you? You can have people that don't really want. They might have to take their kids to football at stupid o'clock in the morning, and they've got to go straight to the Forest ground, and they've not had time for the usual burger and a pint in the Nav. Other pubs are available, of course, not in the Nav as such. But yeah, it's just a different environment, and that's sadly what modern day football has become now, isn't it? Just some games are going to have different atmospheres, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I like the analogy of coiled spring. I think that's how Darren Bent said about our actual football team. We're like a coiled spring, just waiting to go, basically. So yeah, thought that was great. So this was Southampton's team in the last league game they played, Lee. So they played a 3-4-3. I'll just read it out for audio listeners as well, obviously. They had Ramsdale in goal, Harwood, Bellis, Bednarak, and Wood, who I don't know much about, Nathan Wood, at the back. James Bree, Ugachukwu, Aribo, Walker Peters across their midfield. Tyler Diblin, who's been a breakout kind of star in a very, very poor team this season. Paulo Onuachu and Sulemana, out wide. They played a slightly different team against Swansea in the FA Cup, and I think they went 3-5-2 kind of formation. Diblin played up front. So, but that's the team that they played in the last game. Do you see any immediate threats there? Because if they play Onuachu, he's an absolute monstrous sort of bloke, but I don't think he can move too well, if I'm all honest. I think Diblin's like probably the most, he's the one in it really for them.
I think the thing that struck me, I've done a bit of a feature of the programme where I went through that team that you've just read out, basically. Nathan Wood was a signing from Swansea that Martin took with him. He's an academy prospect at Swansea who's ended up playing for Southampton. But yeah, what struck me most was that they're two probably best players playing goal, which is bad, really, when you're a team that faces lots of chances, because even the best, as we saw in that first year in the Prem, we had Dean Henderson and Keylor Navas, and we still shipped loads of goals, didn't we? Those two goalkeepers are brilliant. So that's a bad thing straight away, as much as I do rate Aaron Ramsdale as a goalkeeper. And their other one is Diblin, who plays kind of as a 10 or floating wide. So again, you've got to get the ball to him. And again, every time I've watched Southampton, the thing I do like about him, to be fair, is he drops deep. So he does try and get on the ball, but then he can't do it all himself. So yeah, it kind of. I look at all the other battles across the pitch, and I fancy us to win them. I think we'll have lots of space for the wingers to exploit. I think Gibbs White and Anderson in tandem could cause havoc in the midfield area, and obviously Wood. Yeah, they're playing 3 centre halves, but like you said about the game at their place, we averaged a shot every 15 minutes, or 15 touches. So we're going to get chances. It's just up to us to kind of be. What really encourages me is Wood's goal on Tuesday, actually, because he only kicked the ball once for that goal. He just let it come across and just timed it to perfection, and it was in the bottom corner. So it's up to us to kind of. We're going to get the chances. Let's face it. Southampton aren't going to come to us and not give us any chances. It's not going to be that sort of game. But it's up to us to kind of take them at key points in the game when, if they come into it a little bit, taking them at good times and, just hoping we can get that early goal. I think really do. I know I'm harping on about it, but I do think that's really key.
Yeah, that Wood goal on Tuesday was actually sublime, to be honest. It's such a good finish. It doesn't look like it from where I was in the ground. It just looks like it's dead easy. But like looking back on it, looking back on the match day pass, I'm just like, what a finish, Chris Wood. He's absolutely on fire. I mean, 1 goal from equaling last season's. He's 2 goals from having his best goal scoring season in his whole career, which is ridiculous. Diblin's a cracking player. I mean, I'd be astonished if he's not at a new football club during the summer, even January. I don't see why someone wouldn't take a gamble, because he's shown more than enough quality that he's got it and he can play in this league, to be honest. I would love us to be linked, to be honest, because
we need a left-footed forward.
Left-footed forward, yeah, it just adds that bit of balance. Can play in the 10, can play out wide, so offers a little bit of something. Yeah, fullbacks for them. I mean, Walker Peters is a nice player, but like I said, if he was good enough, he'd be a better club than Southampton for me. So, and if they're playing James Bree at right wing back, that is a problem. Like,
yeah, massively.
We should have a bit of field day, but we're going to get into our teams, Lee. I found it really, really difficult for me, so I'll bring yours up first and I'll read it out for everyone. So Lee's gone with Matt Sells and the same back 4 of Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo and Williams. Nico Dominguez coming in for Ryan Yates, partnering Elliot Anderson. Anthony Elanga, Morgan Gibbs-White in their normal positions, and Ramon Sousa coming in for Callum Hudson-Odoi and Chris Wood up top. Let's start with Nico Dominguez then. First of all, Lee, why have you gone for him? I know there's been loads of discussion online. I think Danny, Reese and Christian Avalisi had all the discussion about Dominguez being unfairly dropped as well. What is that basically why you've put Dominguez back in your starting lineup?
Yeah, I think I've got no real issues with Nuno going with this kind of game-by-game approach, but I think that's the way you're going to keep Dominguez happy by doing that, because Dominguez at the minute probably does recognise that there's certain games that will suit him and there's certain games that will suit Ryan Yates. I just don't see a game against the team with 6 points all season as the sort of game that you necessarily need Ryan Yates. Of course, if he plays, he'll stick a shift in and he'll do a good job for us. But I just think Dominguez will bring so much more in possession of the ball. I just don't think it's going to be the sort of game where we need kind of Yates to be a little narc and wind people up. And I think because obviously Yates was now he played Saturday and he played Tuesday. If we're going with this little rotation policy in the middle of the park, then it does seem like the perfect game just to put Dominguez back in. Obviously, we've got the game next week at Bournemouth, which, again, you look at that, is that more of a game for Ryan Yates away against the team that, are flying at the moment? Possibly. So it was just a freshen up sort of change, really. It wasn't necessarily I do think at some point Anderson will get a little break as well. So, because again, it's his first season where he's kind of now playing week in, week out, isn't it? So he'll get a little break at some point, I'm sure. So it wouldn't surprise me, to be fair, as much as this is the team I'd like to see. It wouldn't surprise me if he played Dominguez and Yates this week and maybe gave Anderson a rest, but I hope he doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the start of the season, if we all said, like, well, we are. Well, Christian was massively questioning Elliot Anderson and where he was going to fit in the team, and I think you as well, Lee, on social media were like, I don't know what he offers really, because he tended to play out wide for Newcastle rather than in the centre where I thought he was at his strongest. Who would have thought like he'd be the one that's the mainstay, and we're rotating around him and Gibbs White essentially. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at seeing Anderson get a rest. Ivor and Yates and Dominguez play centrally against Southampton. I do agree with you. I think Yates would suit Bournemouth more so because of someone like Ryan Christie in the centre of their park, who's also a bit of a narc and technically a pretty good footballer, needs to be kept quiet because he can make things happen as well for them from there. But Ramon Sosa for Callum Hudson-Odoi, is this? Because I mean Callum Hudson-Odoi ran his absolute socks off on Tuesday night, and he has done every game for us this season. I mean, Wolves away was summed it up where he's collapsed on the floor when the one you scored.
Yeah, exactly. I think I didn't really want to. I just think it's the ideal game that if people are feeling anything, I'm not saying we go all Luton and change 11. That's ridiculous. You're asking for trouble doing that in the Prem. But I just think when you've got a squad like ours, where there is people who are, when they get chances, they're actually producing the goods. I think it's a nice game to just make two. Hudson-Odoi, I think he's proved his fitness since he signed for us now. But obviously there is still that long-term injury that he had when he was at Chelsea that kept flaring up. So I just think, like you've just touched on there, against Wolves, he put the ball through and he just collapsed to the floor because he was absolutely knackered. And then he's put another good shift in the other night. I know he came off towards the end, but still, he walks onto the pitch at the end to clap the fans and he can hardly walk. That's just Callum Hudson-Odoi because he puts that much in when he's on the pitch. So yeah, and I just thought Sosa had done such a good job. It'd probably be harsh on Jota Silva, to be fair, but I just think we've seen him from the starting games in the Premier League, whereas we've not with Sosa yet. So I just think it'd be a nice game to kind of see what he could do just for an hour. Just to say, look, right, this is your chance. I'm going to start you. They're struggling. On that side of the pitch as well, he's probably going to be up against James Bree. And that's nothing against James Bree. I don't know loads about him, but I don't anticipate he's going to be. I don't really see him as a Premier League right wing back. I don't know about you. But yeah, I just think it'd be a nice game, a nice comfortable game for him to come into. And just basically one of them games where Nuno can say to him, just play with a bit of freedom and show me what you can do. But like I say, that's no reflection really on Hudson-Odoi. I just think of all the players, all the forward players that could probably warrant a bit of a rest. It would probably be him. But obviously I'd have him on the bench just for the last half an hour or something if we need him.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's a good game for Sosa to potentially come in because we're at home, we're against Southampton, and no disrespect, you're the bottom of the league, and it's a game where we'll all look at ahead of Sunday and go, "That's 3 points." I don't want to be that big-headed, but we will. Majority of our fans will think that's an easy 3 points. And I think that is a good opportunity for him to start at home where he hasn't started only in the cup games, hasn't he? And he scored 2 goals this season. He started away at Everton when he had to last minute replace Murillo, didn't he? And he thought
he did.
At Everton,
yeah, I forgot about that one.
which is a tough place to go. I thought he gave Ashley Young the runaround, and I mean he should because he's about 10 years younger than him. But you know what I mean? Like I just thought, yeah, it's a pretty good game for him to start and see what he can do, rotate the team a little bit because another game next week, which is going to be tough against Bournemouth, where you will probably expect to see Callum Hudson-Odoi start again. I completely agree with you. So I'm going to go into my team, Lee. Feel free to throw me any questions at this, but I will read it out for audio listeners. And I've changed shape a little bit and changed personnel as well. I've gone 3-4-2-1. I've gone Sells in goal, Milenkovic, Murillo, Morato. Aina, Dominguez, Anderson, Alex Moreno, Elanga, Gibbs White, and Chris Wood up top. Any questions?
It's very often the system I deploy on Football Manager, this is, to be fair. I'm a big fan of the shape. I do like the shape. Now, my only worry is you're going to have... I suppose you've got wing backs. I quite like it. I wouldn't be averse to that. I think you've still got all our main players on the pitch, which is good. I mean, are you going with Moreno just because Williams stuck a brilliant shift in the other night, I suppose?
Yeah, I just thought he looked a bit tired at the end Williams. I mean, he's been magnificent, so he doesn't warrant getting dropped either. I'm just doing this personally for rotational and fitness. Make
Yeah, I
sure
mean,
people are all right and sound. You know what I mean?
that's it. I think in modern football, the term "dropped" is used far too often. I mean, I wouldn't be dropping Hudson-Odoi or Yates really. It'd just be for refreshment purposes because we've had a midweek game and we're not used to playing them in the Prem. Yeah, I quite like that. I think what I do like about that is it would match them up. But then is there an element that if it's not going right, Nuno will get flack for matching up the worst team in the league, I suppose. But yeah, I wouldn't be averse to that. I quite like it. I do think the wing back and 3 at the back system it's used often in the modern game, isn't it? So yeah. It in full flight it can be easy on the eye. So I wouldn't be averse to seeing that, to be fair.
I think my idea was like if Onuachu plays, but he's not like the most mobile, then Murillo can pretty much step in and then start attacks in that sense. And you've still got then Morato and to come and cover and whatnot. You've still got Elanga and Gibbs White who can pretty much float and do whatever they like and cause mayhem. And then it's more rotational. I mean, I was really tempted to not even make a team and just go, well, do you know what? I'm quite happy with yours because I thought it was so good. I just wanted to be a little bit different, show something a little bit different. And as we said, because our team is so flexible and Nuno's been so good this season in terms of how he's gone about everything, we just kind of trust whatever he'll play. Like, he could play out and we'll be fine with it. I mean, I was almost tempted to stick a 1-year up just to give Wood a little bit of a respite, but we can't because he's in such good form.
Yeah, I think one thing I would say is I think, and this could make me look really silly if he does rip it up and change it, I think Nuno's settled on the 4-2-3-1 at home. I do think different personnel might come in, but I think now he's been here, 13 months-ish. I think he's settled on that. I think he does like that. I think he understands that we've got a group of players who really suit that at home. And I think as much as when we play City, he might go for something like that, to be fair. But when we played Southampton, I do sense he will stick with 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if it's largely an unchanged side on Sunday. And maybe it's like 1, maybe it's 2 or none, because I think that's what's been so good for us this season is that consistency. Like that we've talked about the back 5 has barely changed. It's either Moreno or Williams, but Williams has proper ripped that shirt off him and put it on his own. And then it's just that midfield where you play Anderson. I mean, I'd love to see Danilo back on the bench as well for this league game as well. I think that would be great. And it's a good one for him to get into, especially if you're like 2 or 3-0 up, you can bring him on and get him some minutes like he did against Luton, where I actually thought he looked quite good against Luton, to be honest. I know I've not spoke about it, but I thought he looked all right to say he's been out for 4 or 5 months. So yeah, it's good to see him back. What's your prediction for Sunday, Lee?
I think we'll win. Again, if we score early, I think it could be a rout, to be fair. I'll go for 3-0. I can't touch wood. I can't see them scoring. I just fancy a comfortable. It'd just be nice to have a comfortable Premier League game on home soil, wouldn't it? I'll go for 3-0.
I'm going for 4-0. I'm going 1 up, yeah.
Hope so.
Yeah, I mean, Wood scores a few. I want Aina was so close to getting a shot away on Tuesday night, and I was like, oh, fantasy football that's like crept in, but also like he can strike a ball, so like he probably would have scored if he'd got that opportunity. I think I can't remember who nicked it away from him. Like literally last second, you could see it on his face. He was like gutted. Just before we finish, Lee, we've been linked loosely to Johan Visser from John Percy. This morning, we was linked in the summer right at the end of the window when we was kind of I don't know, scrapping around for a striker, like linked with every Tom, Dick and Harry. But what do you make of that link to Johan Visser? I mean, he's got 11 goals, 2 assists in 18 games this season. He scored 12 goals in 34 last season, so he's not far off from already getting to the total he got last year in a shorter space of time.
Well, I mean, the thing I like about him, I suppose, is he can play in any of those 3 forward positions, can't he? So, yeah, I think if you've got the chance to sign a player with the Premier League pedigree that he's got, I think we're going to have to understand that there's still a certain pool of players that we can't go in for yet. And I think Wissa is probably a top-end player of the sort of pool that we can go in for. I know he's not got the age profile of what we've really been looking for in recent windows, has he, I suppose? But at 28 as a striker, well, a forward, he's probably going to be in his peak, isn't he? So if the price is right, you'd be getting a player who he's not going to need any settling in period. He's going to come straight in and, in theory, make an impact. So, yeah, I think I'd be more than happy with that sort of signing, to be fair. I just hope we get something sorted pretty much ready to go before there's any potential for a one-year to leave, because that would just be very, very risky for me.
I personally... I like the link, and I like him as a striker because he will run in behind and he can drop deep and link play up. And on the counter, I think if he got like a one-touch finish, you back him because he's pretty good. I mean, I thought the goal he scored against Man City was actually a lot harder than people think, because he had to sort his feet out really, really quickly. He took a really good touch and then stuck it away. I just don't see it happening because I think Brentford will want too much money. We're kind of a rival to him, especially with the whole Brennan Johnson fiasco. And I just think they'll want too much money for him personally, especially in this window where everyone's just, their price doubles and 11 league goals. I don't think they can afford to lose him because they can't keep Kevin Schade fit. And Buemo can't do it on his own, although he has proven it. Yeah, he can do it on his own sometimes. I just don't think, I think we'll get outpriced personally. For Johannes, unless he picks up a fuss. I know he's got 18 months left as well, so he'd have to kick up a fuss maybe.
Yeah, or basically turn around and say, I'm not going to sign a new contract, so you will lose me for free. But even then, I suppose, I don't know. I do tend to agree. I know I said in our group chat this morning about the contract, but thinking about it, there's the whole Brennan Johnson stuff again, isn't there? Are they going to be willing to do that? I'm not sure. It is an interesting one because now we're where we are in the league. I think it makes us all of a sudden attractive. I mean, I'm not saying this through blinkered glasses, but I genuinely think that if this football club goes back into Europe, you might be shocked at the level of players that will actually be capable of signing, because you know, you go anywhere in the world, whether it's on holiday or travelling or whatever, and you mention that you're from Nottingham, and the first thing they say back is Nottingham Forest. So there's potential for the football club to be a bit of a brand again, and I think players will want to be a part of that. But yeah, I still think we've got to be realistic. I'm not saying we're going to go out there and tempt bloody Mbappe to come and sign for us or anything like that. But I do think, put it this way, if Wissa's agent had said to him at the start of the season, Forest are interested, he'd have gone, forget it. If he said to him now, oh, Forest might be interested again, and he's looked at Forest this season, he looks what we might be potentially capable of doing, I bet he's not dismissed it straight away. That's what I would say. Yeah,
it's just whether that the offer comes in of like, how is he going to fit into the team with Chris Wood scoring nearly every week? Is he going to want to play a rotational role where he's got to maybe come on as a substitute a little bit more? I don't know. That's my one thought. But like you say, 18 months, we're going well. It's a really hard one to weigh up, I think, from his point of view as well.
It is tricky. I think, like you say, I know we've said before we could do with a young striker who's not bothered about playing that much, but I just sense you're going to get a similar situation to Awoniyi now with that. When he does play and he's going to be feeding on scraps and 20 minutes, 15 minutes here and there, they're going to get the same level of flack because they're going to come on and not produce the goods necessarily. I'm not saying they're definitely going to do that and it's going to be completely the same, but you've got a similar situation. So, like we've just said about freshening the team up, it would be nice to think, right, Wood's scored in the week. Yeah, Wood will want to play every game. Of course he will. He's in the form of his life and he's in good shape. He's looked after himself, all that sort of stuff. But from a manager's perspective, it must be nice if, let's say we had Wissa for Sunday instead of Awoniyi, it'd be a no-brainer. Just give Wood a bit of a rest. He scored in the week. Get Wissa up there, see what we can do. Get Wood on for the last half an hour, keep him a little bit fresher. Yeah, it's problems for the manager, but they're good ones to have, I suppose. What I would say as well is next season, if we're in Europe, we're going to need two strikers capable of playing because, well, we're going to be playing 50, 60 games, aren't we, in theory, if we're in Europe. So, yeah, it's all sort of things that the manager's got to weigh up. But, going back to my original point, I wouldn't be averse to Wissa coming.
No. How much would you want Forest to spend on him? Like, what's your limit as a fan? I know it's not out of money, so it doesn't really matter. And also, every club in the Premier League passed PSR for this season, which is absolutely astonishing, by the way, because Leicester, how I don't know. Everton was also meant to be on the brink. Man City, no one cares anymore, do they? Like what? I don't know what the league are doing about that. They said about these charges about 1 million years ago, and they're still going on. Man United just sign every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and don't sell anyone and get away with it. Chelsea selling hotels, just doing what they want. It's a farce. But yeah, everyone's past PSR. So does that give Marinakis the green light to go? Well, I'm going to spend some money, because if we can get 1-2 players that improve our squad or improve our 11, it's Champions League or Europa League, I think, if you get it right.
I think he probably still wants to, go with a little bit of caution. I mean, the bit I read about Chelsea's PSR thing was the funniest, that they're in talks to, I don't know, they're trying to sort some sort of arrangement so they don't have to have a points deduction or something. I don't know. They just make it up as they go along, don't they? I don't really know. They signed him for $8.5 million, didn't they? And he's scored like 41 goals in 143 games, I think it is, which is pretty good.
I think he's their top Premier League goal scorer now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's their top Premier League goal scorer now. So all those little things, we'd be using them as feathers in our cap if it was a player we were trying to sell. So they're going to do the same, and why not? It's difficult because it's a January window as well, so that's probably going to put 10 million on. They'll have seen the links with Taiwo. They know that we're after a striker, so that's going to put another 5 million on. I just think it's a very unlikely deal. I just don't think you tend to see that many deals between divisions in January. Clubs tend to shop elsewhere where they can get a bit more of a bargain. So yeah, answer to your question, I don't really know. I think it would take probably too much, more than we're willing to pay for the January window, but certainly one to reassess in the summer, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I wouldn't want us to spend more than, I don't know, 25 million on him. I know that it's still quite cheap in the grand scheme of things of what modern day football is, but I just think it's so tough, man. Very, very tough. We could talk about this until the cows come home, to be honest, Lee. So we'll leave it there. Hope everyone's enjoyed the pod. If you can drop us a like and a subscribe, it's all free. Hopefully the technical issues weren't too bad, because they were really bad whilst we've been recording this, to be honest. So I hope the pod's come out all right. If you've made it this far, then it's been all right, I guess. Or you just a loyal, I don't know, enjoyer of Red Side of the Trent, which we all thank you and appreciate. We'll see you all for Monday for the review. Hopefully another 3 points talking about, and that'd be lovely. Get us back on track of our European dreams. Until next time,